how much power does the SEC really have when it comes to going after somebody like this? And me, I like to put my little tinfoil hat on and kind of do a little bit of critical thinking here. I think it's very interesting that we heard Gary Gensler say very bad things about stablecoins, comparing them to what? Was it poker chips? Okay. So we've got, you know, these poker chips that are out there. So we knew that there was going to be very harsh regulation coming to stablecoins. Then we see UST completely depeg. And we also know that we're going to be introducing a CBDC that's coming eventually, supposedly. So it kind of feels like some of this may be kind of coordinated, but not, but it is in a way. So I'm kind of taking all this in, you know, just kind of trying to follow the money the best way that I can and trying to make it make sense. Because how does something grow so big?
A little bit of the background, great background on me. Have been in technology now for 25 years. Started my company very, very early on in e-commerce in 1996. And then I was also one of the primary engineers on the Mars crew module. So the thing that will hopefully take people to Mars someday and land on Mars, I'm very, very proud of that. I'm also a very, very active investor in traditional companies, technology companies, a little bit more than 100 different investments I think I've made in traditional equities, startups, things of that nature. And then now, particularly cryptocurrency networks, I was probably one of the first few hundred users of Bitcoin, have been investing in that ever since.
So you're an aerospace engineer, you have multiple graduate degrees, then you go to MIT, you get your business degree. You're clearly the top of the food chain, or you're up there intellectually, and then you end up picking out clothes for guys like Tom Sosnoff. I mean, it seems like, it seems like, oh boy, the mighty have fallen there, young man.
So
I'm just trying to put all.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
He did a really nice job on this. He got a lot of help from people to help them, and he always helped them on that. And then they got bought by this company, Raise.com, and Raise.com took the idea of kind of preference engine, moved it into retail space. So he learns a lot about the retail space in Raise.com. And he's kind of doing that, and it goes really well, and they get bought. And so he's like, I gotta do something bigger than this. And so now he leaves Raise. He was CTO there. They've done really well. And he takes a day off, and he goes, I know exactly what I should do. Retail is broke. And so he uses all the contacts he had, and he starts this new company called Flexa. And he's basically going to help retailers not have to pay the very high rates that they have to pay to MasterCard and Visa. He's going to do it for free. Now, you'd say, how can he do it for free? Because of his understanding of Bitcoin, they just use his system, and the value of the token goes up. Now, how can this be a viable business model? Because he owns a pile of these tokens too. So when the token is successful, it all goes up. Flexa is incredibly successful. And they get asked by the government of El Salvador, you probably heard about this, to build the infrastructure for the first nation in the world to use Bitcoin as a national currency. This is just mind-blowing. And who's doing it? Tyler Spalding at Flexa. And then you say, how many people does Tyler Spalding have in his company? I would put it out there. How many people do you think that? He has 15 people at his company.
And welcome back to the channel, everyone. I just wanted to unpack a little bit from the first video here, the MIT conspiracy. Just wanted to speak a little bit about what Bill Howlett was saying there, we saw in the intro, because I thought I'd go back a little bit further just to try to see if I could find anything on StyleSeek. The reason why I'm mainly doing this, though, that first part you saw with Wendy O, that was at Consensus 2022, which is going on now. I did want to talk more especially about the MIT part, because I noticed something at Consensus 2022. You see there's a lot of interest here in this It's a Viable 2 Chains event, especially because Flexa is very heavily involved in Consensus 2022. Just how involved? Well, let's go ahead and see. Here you can see they have the store of value, which includes a lot of crypto items. You can buy miners, wallets, it looks like NFT frames, some art, and the store of value will accept Desk, CoinDesk's new social token, which brings up another interesting point and another Flexa connection here. As you can see here, this is Trevor talking about how people at the conference can use Desk, especially at that store of value, and the reason for this integration, because this is what's known as a sort of a working proof of concept for Flexa. They can go to these large hotels, these large airlines, and say, hey, look, we've done this here. This will work with our system. You won't have to worry about handling the loyalty part anymore, at least not in the way you're currently doing it. It might save more money, and it might just be a better way to do it, again, because they can directly target the spenders. Plus, the retailers would be the ones in control, since the token will not have a cash value. It'll just be valuable to that merchant. And this is just a screenshot I took earlier today. As you can see two chains right there in the middle, the same picture from that event. So it's nice to know they're at least advertising it to the people already there at the conference. But really what got me interested to even start this video, to even come up with the idea for the video, was because of this one word, Stellar. They're the ones presenting it. I was wondering how and why is their name attached to this. And if we go to the Stellar Foundation's team page, you can see here that they're very focused on payments. And in the crypto world, they're seen as sort of a competitor to Flexa, but really it seems like they could work together. And if you scroll down, you'll see the team. A few people that are very interesting to note here. Candace Kelly, their general counsel. She is interesting because she has a combined experience before this of 18 years between both the FBI and the U.S. Attorney General's office. Very good to have as your general counsel. We've also got David Medeiros, the founder and chief scientist, Stanford profile, where he is a professor of computer science. A lot of MIT down here, both the honors and awards, best thesis in computer science back in 2000, got his PhD at MIT in computer science in 2000, and plus won the Alfred P. Sloan Research Fellow, which again, Alfred P. Sloan, sort of related to MIT, the MIT Sloan School. That was in 2002. And one last one to mention here, Tomer Weller. Well, here's Tomer Weller on the MIT Media Lab people page, Viral Communications. And these are some of the projects. This is actually his projects page. And you can see here there's different things like the Wall of Now, enhanced video captions, and this is how, so that way people can connect makers of small businesses through their stories. Again, this was Viral Communications, which honestly makes sense with the title of Tech Strategy and how that can be implemented in a very usable way for multiple people across different demographics. That's just a brief look at their team. I didn't really get too much more into XLM or Stellar itself, but I do feel pretty confident, especially after seeing this video here. It's a very good video. It's very long. There's nothing really to show you, just that this was actually a talks at Google. So that shows some pretty big interest from big tech, and that was even back in 2016. And again, Stellar Development Foundation. Now that's a lot of coverage to, again, just on this one announcement, but I thought I'd go even deeper. And this, we're going to start looking at some of the big money in the current crypto sphere. It would help to go to CoinDesk's regular page instead of this Consensus 2022 one. And if you scroll all the way down here, you can see just the three letters, DCG. And that is the Digital Currency Group. This is Barry Silbert's group. And if you just simply go to the portfolio, I will list the ones of note. There are quite a few here. So let's go ahead down the list. I'm going to try to make this quick. We have Circle, Coinbase, CoinDesk, Curve, which they did acquire, Dune Analytics, Etherscan, FTX, Kraken, Ledger, Lightning Network, Ripple, and finally Zcash. These are all the companies. Again, Curve was the one that was acquired, but these are all the companies that they have invested in. Now, to go back to Tyler here and StyleSeek, I found this article here, again, MIT Sloan website. And there are some points to note in this article. As you can see, StyleSeek had 50,000 actively registered users, 200 retailers, and he started StyleSeek while he was at MIT School of Sloan of Management. Just started as a project. Now there was 10 people. StyleSeek was very big when it came to analytics. We'll cover that a little bit more here too. But there's still more in this article, such as StyleSeek's click-through numbers. I mean, you can see here that back then it was typical to only get 0.5% to 1.5% in the click-throughs, but they were getting 5 to 10%. And that the retailers saw this and they're like, wow, they're onto something. These analytics are working. And that can take us back to the reason for that desk loyalty token. That is the first step to get that into mass adoption. And Tyler would know this because, again, the way his analytics worked, it's exactly the jump from like Web 1.0 to Web 2.0. I was alive back then. I remember what it was like back then. It wasn't pretty. Now, fortunately, I did just type in Tyler Spalding StyleSeek into YouTube, and this video popped up on March 1st, 2013. I think like a year later in 2014 is when StyleSeek got acquired by Raise for the technology, for the analytics, for the engineering team. So there's a little bit to unpack from this video, so let's go ahead and get started with it. This is from Tasty Trade.
Oh yeah, no, of course, for sure. So a lot of it was so in working at like NASA and Lockheed Martin and the Air Force and helping build a lot of these new like prototype vehicles that they had. I'm a super nerd in being able to go through all the algorithms, all the equations, and doing a lot of the technical work there. While at NASA in particular, I had a very interesting job that was hardware nonconformance that allowed me to interact with just hundreds of different people in various engineering disciplines, procurement, the people actually on the floor doing the work, solving these really hard technical problems, then budgeting, it was just everyone across the board. And it was really, really, really stressful. And I loved it. I loved it not only because there was so much activity happening, I had my hands all over the place, but I had this huge sense of responsibility and pride in that everything I was doing, the product I was building was getting displayed and demoed on live television, right? The space shuttle would then launch, and astronauts' lives their lives were on the line. Yeah. Every single product that I put out the door.
So I think that sounds very familiar to how Tyler is at Flexa. Again, you heard Bill say that Flexa is very successful. We're seeing that Tyler was like this even back in 2013. Shows he's very consistent.
Going with that, and now. As you've seen in going through the site itself, one of the really interesting things we have is that we use that style game at the very beginning, because especially for men and anyone else, like the whole point was that we need to make the site relevant for you, and we wanted to get this technology to personalize a site for you as absolutely quickly as possible, but then also just be right. I don't believe in scraping data and following you around the web and looking at your cookies and figuring out what's on your Facebook profile. We do it in a very, very non-invasive way. Totally 100% the opposite stance. And that data is there and we can use it, but we opt 100% to not use it. And
again, as we heard about that digital currency initiative, that's one of the big things about a CBDC, which I don't think is going to happen. Let's just do a little detour why I don't think it's going to happen.
Congressman here is going to give it to us, right? What has to happen?
Well, how much profanity can I use? I welcome the comprehensive bill by a progressive, but the process matters. So it's my intention to chair the House Financial Services Committee next Congress, and it is, as chairman, I will prioritize digital assets. Thanks.
This is from Consensus 2022. Again, this just was streamed 11 hours ago, and this shows you that there are lawmakers. Again, this was a forum with Pat Toomey, Loomis. They're going ahead and discussing this crypto awakening. You can see that they are taking it very, very seriously.
And where we began is exactly what Pat said. We have to begin with a stable coin question. There is no federal definition, there is no federal law defining what is a stable coin. It's very important that we get that right.
I.e., no more terras.
It's very important that we also protect the right for innovation in that space. Number one, stable coins. Number two, we have to have clear treatment of digital assets under federal law. We have securities law, we have commodities law. This thing doesn't fit neatly into either, and what Satoshi brought to this world is new and distinct from what it was before.
And speaking about that, we'll actually leave this video because I did want to show you something from Tyler's video discussing this problem. What is crypto? What is Web3? Why it's not really working with the current legislation. And it's a little bit something for the skeptics. I've seen quite a few since the current bear market coming out on Twitter, and they were just repeating the 2017 lies, even though crypto has really come a long way in 5 years. Windows 3.1 and Windows 95.
You've heard of Bitcoin, Ether, and a lot of others. And this is the analogy I like to use for those. Platypus is it has duck-like features, but it's not a duck. It has mammal-like features. It's not a mammal. But like cryptocurrencies or tokens have currency-like features, but they're really not currencies for the most part. And then they even have security-like features, but they're not securities either. It's sort of this little bit new model of what is used within these decentralized networks. This is a very common theme that you'll look at when looking through traditional media and other writing, is that, okay, it's all useless, it's scams, I don't understand it. You've got this platypus thing that is scary to me, I don't understand what this is, it's just scam, scam, scam. So that will again, having lived through that period for years of my life again in building e-commerce companies starting in 1996, it sounds awfully familiar with everything that I'm still continuing to do today.
And now we're back to this video. There was just a little bit more that I wanted you to hear about this stablecoin issue that they're going to try to regulate.
We have to make sure the federal law catches up with that new thing that is over a decade old. So the definition and the treatment of that digital asset is a very important thing to get right. That's step 2. Step 3, you have to have a federal framework for the exchange of those objects, of those things. And so we have to get those 3 things right. They're foundational to the additional steps thereafter. And a number of these components are found in the senator's bills. And there's a lot of movement in this space that we can enable.
Yes, they stated earlier in this video that they really did get with the people in the crypto industry, and the problem they had was they would ask one question and they would get every single different answer for what is Web3, things like that. So they had to go through all these suggestions and cut out what they couldn't have in there, things that would have just been too ridiculous, like making Bitcoin the only commodity and everything else a security, which is what some people were arguing for on Twitter. But let's leave this video. Let's go back to 2013 with Tyler again.
Instead, what we'd rather do is just tell us a little bit about what you're looking for, and then we can use our technology to give you exactly that. And so when you come into our site, you select images of movies, cars, magazines, not fashion, not clothing, anything else like that. Super simple. And within 30 seconds, we can then get you the absolute best products. Hundreds of thousands of products. We can narrow that down to probably 50 that are good for you, and then show you everything else from there. And then we have a lot of other really cool sort of subsystems under that too, which is really interesting. But
that's smart.
That's generally the idea.
As you could hear Tyler talk there, the analytics were very good. Again, 10,000 down to 50, just like that.
Have individual consumers, have they embraced you guys yet?
Oh yeah, of course. We're selling lots of stuff. A few $100,000 worth of revenue in driven sales to our affiliate partners. But the best thing was that once they've come into our site, we now know what you're looking for. So you could take this idea to a lot of different things. So another local company, Groupon, right? So Groupon will send you the deal a day and everything else. But we could just say, hey, Tom, you've used our site. You've identified this 30 seconds of things that you've been interested in. We can now personalize every single correspondence to you based on your interests. And we actually are doing that right now. So when we send out emails to our users, they're not, hey, there's a sale, or hey, there's some new products, or this new brand has come out. We can actually personalize each individual piece of that. So each email is 100% different to each of the users.
Do you worry about
That sounds very common today in this world, but you still get some of those just cheap generic ones depending on the site. But other ones I know, like Woot.com, I would get personalized ones, ones that, hey, you bought this before, this might interest you.
Because the barrier to entry is so low, do you worry about a certain level of oversaturation with things like, just clothing? We've had, only reason I say this is we've had a bunch of people on that do similar things with respect, not the same, of course, but just
yeah. And so we're getting obviously much better than that. We have a few other really interesting things that from a licensing perspective are going to be extremely valuable. We solved a number of the problems that are currently exist. So for instance, so not only that, I guess to first answer your question, we've now had more than 100,000 people actually go through the style game itself. We've been working on the core technology for a little more than 2 years now. So there's a lot there that we've been able to uncover. And even when it comes to like filing IP and all that kind of stuff, we've done some really cool stuff. And we also have the very first interactive relevance system ever really created for e-commerce.
Again, as you can see, Tyler's an innovator. And a lot of this is very similar to the Flexa story. The time frame, the patents for the IP, just innovative technology. Again, this was almost a decade ago he was doing this. And now with Flexa, it's even better. He has progressed with each one of these startups.
So kind of then you got the bug. And so you went back to business school. Is that
100%, 100%.
Okay. And then so you get to MIT and you make new friends. Kind of that. I'm just guessing.
Yep.
You make some new friends and you start to put all these minds together and you say, okay, we know we're smart, right? What can we do to create a new business that can be, a certain size and how do we get to these various levels and let's see if we can do it.
And again, we can see that this is almost exactly what Flexa did. This makes me feel even more confident because there is no economic incentive to ever sell Flexa. As you heard Bill describe, with how the business model works, and with Tyler saying it's kind of like a platypus, it's not really a traditional business anymore. So again, that's why those lawmakers are making all these new laws.
That's really good. Yeah, that's pretty much what we have done.
So you find a couple of people, you got some partners, or did you do this solo?
Yes, I have one partner, co-founder, Chris Walti. I met him at undergrad and at graduate school again, and has like a data analytics background too.
And then
And I thought I would check on Chris Walti. This will be the last part of this video. Again, this is from Tasty Trade, and you can see they're still actually making videos right here. This was just 3 days ago down here in the corner. They have aged a bit, but hey, a decade ages everyone. I mean, Tyler looked extremely young here. So this is Chris Walti's LinkedIn. As you can see here, there's Tastebud Technologies, where he's the co-founder. October 2014 is when it was acquired by Raise. And then he went and worked for Tesla for 7 years. Founded some new company now, and is now an angel investor. Now, we can see here that about CoinDesk, they deleted their original tweet last night about Flexa. Someone said they might have spoiled something a little bit ahead of time. I think it might be related to something else. But there are definitely two different theories because there is the Apple Tap to Pay, which is a picture in the article. I just took a screen grab of it because I had to use the Wayback Machine since it's now a 404. So this is my screenshot from the Wayback Machine. Again, I would have to do this because every time I would try to load it, this text part would only be there for like a second or two and disappear. And when I got a time to read it, I noticed this highlighted part down here. That last year Flexa launched Lightning Network payments with select partners and merchants in El Salvador as the country rolled out Bitcoin as legal tender. People have been speculating about maybe tomorrow's the Apple Pay announcement because you can see there's that Getty Images part in the image, and that was showing Apple Pay being used at a checkout system at like a grocery store. Again, I thought it was just a stock photo that CoinDesk used, nothing big into it. The only other thing is that commercial they were shooting a few months back was very, very Apple-esque. Remember the commercial shoot? Again, this was with Flex and Zcash, according to someone from Zcash. Again, very white backgrounds that look like David Duchovny. And you can see here that there's just this line. It's very, very white. This was the same one that like John Kim and 2 Chainz were at. Funny story. I think that John Kim might have actually deleted a video of this. It appeared to be a video that was being edited. And I remember it because it showed almost like an NFC feature instead of a true scan to pay. And that would make sense for any sort of Apple Pay rumors. But again, this is all just speculation. It's probably nothing even close to that size. However, I'm thinking it's more about the Lightning Network one because there'll be quite a bit that I'll have to share with you, including that there is no Lightning Network nodes in El Salvador. But I'm not too worried because Lightning Network, there's some very interesting programming things that sort of relate to that Flexa transformer. Means it might be more fully distributed than what you see with the Lightning Network now on Bitcoin. Again, Lightning Network, you can actually use it in different networks. So might bring a whole new reason to why people in El Salvador, people who are actually going to El Salvador and trying to use Strike or another app, another wallet, are failing. For example.
But you aren't actually using Bitcoin. Instead, they created a new wallet, the Shivo wallet, that's a electronic payment channel that takes Bitcoin and dollars and just updates your balance in a central database. It's not actually doing a transfer.
Okay, I'm in Santa Ana, El Salvador, and I tried to use my normal Bitcoin in the supermarket over here, and they had a thing that said Bitcoin accepted. When I got to the counter, they said it was only Bitcoin used by, I think, as I understand it, it was the El Salvador Bitcoin app. They wouldn't take my Coinomi app. So I've been here about, I don't know, about a week and a half or something.
Now, this video was mainly being skeptical about Bitcoin in general. This person says they're a computer scientist, and I believe they are, but they're also very negative on cryptocurrency, and they're still repeating the same arguments from 2017. But I think now we might be able to understand why people are having problems using the Bitcoin Lightning Network when in El Salvador. But more on that, and more on a lot more topics on the next video.
So I'm curious, what's next for you in your crypto adventure, and does it involve this guy in some capacity?
Yeah, everything I do from this point will involve him. I'm working on, no, seriously, I'm working on an album with an artist by the name of Lil Wayne.
You know, what's next with 2 Chainz and Flexa? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've had some really exciting merchant growth. We launched a couple weeks ago with Chipotle, so a lot of people saw that. So nationwide across, you know, more than 10,000 stores. So getting now integrated just with Flexa across all the U.S. and then lots of other countries that we have kind of upcoming, which is going to be really neat. And then not only just beyond, you know, crypto assets, lots and lots of other types of assets we're going to be adding. Because again, it's about, if you're bringing this to, you know, an average person and giving real utility, it's not exclusive. It's how can I just use an app that I already have and buy something with it and make it really easy. It needs to be that way. Otherwise, we're just working really hard and really not achieving the right goal. And so it'll be all different sorts of assets that we'll be adding, all different types of apps. And then importantly, it's expanding into other experiences, right? So working with other artists, we'll be launching in some sporting stadiums very soon. And so like now getting really integrated into the fabric of, you know, your everyday life and everything that you're buying and purchasing, and having now crypto or digital payments just be ubiquitous, right? And that's a really big part of what we're setting out to do. And so having the right partners be able to help do that for us is really important.
Is this theme with all the technology investments I've made and that I'm a part of, and I like to help progress technology, is that this is the standard you know, adoption curves that you'll see, and you'll notice as it starts again creeping more towards the right, these technologies advance so quickly. They go from relative obscurity to absolute saturation within a market very, very quickly, and in some cases faster than ever before.
But I want to give you the last word, 2 Chainz. What's the last word?
Me?
You.
God is good.
All right, we'll end it there.